Hey guys, welcome to In China. I'm Lin. A recent hit TV series in China reveals the crazy interest in studying abroad. Some Chinese parents would even quit their job and literally give up everything, then move abroad to take care of their kids. I know it sounds crazy. Currently, I saw a question on Quora. If China is doing so well economically, why do Chinese people still migrate to the West? I guess you can also ask, why do Chinese people still think studying abroad is a shortcut? And I am very interested to the answers below because they are from both foreigners and Chinese, and I wonder if I can agree with them. This answer is quite a long one, but it has about 400,000 views and 1,000 upvoters, so I guess it is valuable. Let's see some parts of the answer. It says, it seems that a foreigner can never become de facto Chinese in China, whereas Chinese can become full citizens of Western countries. I'm not sure about that. I know some ethnic Chinese people would prefer to coming back to China after a few years living abroad, and I guess cultural difference plays a big part in it. I hope some Chinese overseas students can answer this question for us if they really feel like they're becoming full citizens of Western countries. I guess it is very difficult. Personally speaking, I guess there are mainly two reasons why some Chinese people want to migrate to the West. Firstly, China had been lagging behind economically for many years. So for some people, they don't have the national pride and they think everything abroad is better, so they migrate to the West and settle down there. Secondly, some Chinese people have more desire for freedom. China has been trying to build a society ruled by law, but so far, to some extent, it's more like a society ruled by man. Then he continues, says something about less personal liberty in China, and the ownership of the property lasts 75 years, after which you need to repurchase it from the government. That is totally true, and moreover, 75 years refers to the houses in the community, and the ownership of the small apartments only lasts like 40 years. You know what? Everything belongs to the government in China. Sometimes we complain about it being unreasonable, but that is what we have been told since we were born. You can't fight with it, like the tax in the United States. The next point of his answer talks about the education in China. He says, it seems to me that it can be very harsh and competitive. I cannot imagine my students from the West in their place. I have to say the educational system in China is nothing but a nightmare. Chinese parents like to compare Gaokao, the national entrance exam, to a single plank bridge to success. It means the only way to success, unless you are born rich. On my senior year of high school, I woke up at 5 a.m. in the morning and kept on studying until like 10:30 in the evening. And the time for meals was like just 30 minutes. What makes it more horrible is that there were so many students reading books with a flashlight or under a street lamp before 5 a.m. or after it gets dark. I eventually went to a very nice university, but that year of high school was like living in hell. So you can imagine it is a huge burden to every child. And as far as I'm concerned, foreign schools emphasize personality differences and creativity, while Chinese schools always pay much more attention on scores and group consciousness. So it is reasonable to study abroad to receive another kind of education for that reason. But some people just, they want that overseas degree to get a better salary in China, and what they have learned abroad won't suit Chinese society. Then he talks about the pollution level. Most Westerners visiting China for the first time would be astonished by the pollution levels. Okay, that might be a reason, but only for the wealthy people. They have the money and the time to worry about the quality of life. That's it for the first answer. I think it's great and it offers many reasonable points. And the next answer is from a Chinese lady. She says, I indeed wanted to go back to China, but my boss told me that I might find it hard to find a husband because I got too much education. Out of despair, I returned to London and settled there. Well, I made a video about Chinese high-educated Chinese women seem to be left over, but I think this Chinese lady should be more independent, because finding a husband or not should never be the reason of your big decisions. That's my opinion. The next answer is still about Chinese education system. She mentions if you're a smart student, then you are in a class with smart students. If you are weak, then you will be dumped into a site. Sadly, that is also true. In China, if you're doing good on scores, you will be sitting in the first few rows of the classroom. If not, you will be sitting at a corner. So she says that would mean ultra pressure for students because you need to worry about you might someday be outsmarted. Okay, that is how it works in China. Keep this in mind. Now get back to the question. Imagine China as the smart class, the West as mediocre class, and Chinese people like me migrating to the West. Do you get the picture now? Her point is one obvious reason for Chinese students migrating to the West is the environment they are growing up is very competitive. So moving to a less competitive environment like the Western countries is quite a good option for them. Actually, I think she's offering a very refreshing point of view comparing countries to different levels of classes, of course just in terms of competitiveness. Indeed, I think it is part of the reasons, but not very comprehensive. Basically, there are two kinds of Chinese young people studying abroad, the rich and the smart. Rich Chinese parents can afford the very expensive tuition of colleges abroad, but they are less competitive in Gaokao. So it accords with the answer. They need less competitive environment. The second group are the smart one. You guys must have seen international students from China studying in the Western countries who already had a college degree in China, but they want further education or they study for PhD. That is what I want to add. The next answer is from someone who has lived in China for 6 years. Wow. And he shares two reasons why many of Chinese migrate to the West. The first one is many Chinese millionaires leave because of political freedom. Well, I can just tell you it is true that government can track everything we do. We use QQ and WeChat like every day. But if you say something politically incorrect, if you say something bad about the Communist Party, you will be invited to the police station the next day. The second reason he mentions is to avoid entrance exam in China for higher education. That is Gaokao, we just talked about a few times. You see how stressful it is for Chinese students. The last answer I'm going to share with you. He says, if you're a rich, corrupt Chinese official that wants to retire, China is a bad place to stay. There are a lot of similar plots in Chinese movies. A corrupt Chinese official escaped from China and hoping to have a wonderful life abroad, but they always get caught in the movies. And he says, I've found this current Chinese immigration isn't living in China forever. They get their green card but fly back regularly to China to do more business, which is going to cause a lot of questions about identity and loyalty. Chinese people have a very strong sense of family. As long as they have families and friends in China, it is very difficult to cut this bond. I don't know if it is a very disturbing issue for the Western countries they settled in, but I know many of ethnic Chinese people have the issue of identity because they haven't totally blended in the Western society, but they already cannot go back to the Chinese living style. This time, my question for you guys is, when you encounter with Chinese overseas students or Chinese immigrants, what do you think of them? Do you really think they're stealing jobs from you? Do you really think they are making house price going high? I'm looking forward to your comments below. That's it for today. See you next time.